His latest film opening this week is Blade Runner. Please welcome Harrison Ford.
Where did you cook?
My first job was I cooked at a hospital.
You look great.
You're busy. What is this? Captain America, Marvel? No,
Captain America. She was my wife. Wookiee sack of I'm out of here.
No,
really.
At 82, Harrison Ford isn't just a Hollywood legend. He's the man behind some of the most daring characters in movie history. But away from the lights, his real love story has been just as thrilling and far more complicated. 3 marriages, a secret affair that stayed buried for decades, and a relationship that defied the odds, surviving danger, distance, and a 22-year age gap. Now, for the first time, Ford is letting the world see what really happened behind closed doors and why he says this chapter of his life means more than any role he's ever played. Long before the world knew him as Han Solo or Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford was just a lanky teenager from Illinois, more comfortable fixing a bike chain than walking a red carpet. And like most small-town kids, he had a high school sweetheart named Mary Marquardt. She wasn't just the pretty girl next door. Mary was a talented illustrator and budding chef with a creative streak that matched Ford's own quiet ambition. They fell for each other the way young couples do, fast and without overthinking it. In 1964, they married, stepping into adulthood together with little more than dreams and determination. Back then, Ford was years away from his big break. He took odd jobs, from carpentry to small television parts, while Mary kept them afloat with her work in the kitchen and her art. Their life together was grounded and simple. They had 2 sons, Benjamin in 1966 and Willard in 1969, and for over a decade, their marriage weathered the typical ups and downs of building a family. But in 1977, everything changed. Ford landed the role of Han Solo in Star Wars, and almost overnight, his life exploded into a whirlwind of fame, travel, and relentless attention. Hollywood was calling, and it didn't take long for the strain to show. Whispers started circulating in the industry that fame wasn't the only new factor in Ford's life. Rumors suggest that during filming, Ford grew close to his co-star Carrie Fisher, and the connection wasn't just professional. By 1979, Mary had filed for divorce, ending a 15-year marriage that had begun before Ford was anyone's idea of a star. Publicly, the couple kept it civil, focusing on co-parenting their sons, but privately, it marked a clear turning point in Ford's personal life. The steady, small-town chapter was over. What came next would be far more glamorous and far more complicated. But that wasn't the end of the Carrie Fisher story, and what she revealed years later would make Star Wars fans see their favorite on-screen couple in a whole new light. On screen, Han Solo and Princess Leia had the kind of chemistry you couldn't fake. The teasing banter, the stolen glances, the "I know" that became one of cinema's most iconic lines. But for years, fans assumed it was all acting. Then, decades later, Carrie Fisher dropped a bombshell that rewrote the history of Star Wars. In her 2016 memoir, The Princess Diarist, she revealed that during the filming of the first movie in 1977, she and Harrison Ford had a real-life romance. One she described as intense, secretive, and completely unexpected. Fisher was just 19 at the time, wide-eyed and new to the industry. Ford, at 33, was a married father of 2, with his career just about to take off. According to Fisher, the affair lasted about 3 months, playing out in the shadows while they filmed in London. Weekdays were Han and Leia. Weekends, they were simply Harrison and Carrie. She admitted she became deeply infatuated, even hoping he might leave his wife. But she also knew, deep down, it wasn't going to happen. Their relationship ended quietly, without a public scene or dramatic fallout. Ford never spoke about it, even after Fisher went public. When asked, he offered no denials, no confirmations, just a respectful silence. For Fisher, it was a chapter she carried privately for decades, only sharing it near the end of her life. And for Star Wars fans, the revelation added a bittersweet layer to every moment Han and Leia shared on screen. For Ford, that period was a whirlwind. The disintegration of his first marriage, the chaos of sudden superstardom, and the beginnings of a reputation as one of Hollywood's most private leading men. But as his personal life shifted, another relationship was already waiting to rewrite his future. One that began not in a galaxy far, far away, but on the set of a war epic in the Philippines. By the late 1970s, Harrison Ford's career was on a steep climb, but his personal life was still unsettled. That's when fate and a movie shoot brought Melissa Mathison into the picture. They first crossed paths in 1976 on the set of Apocalypse Now, where Ford had a small role as Colonel Lucas, and Mathison was working as a production assistant. At the time, she was an aspiring screenwriter with a quiet intelligence and a knack for storytelling. They clicked instantly, but it wasn't until a few years later, after Ford's divorce from Mary Marquardt, that their connection turned romantic. By the early 1980s, both of their careers were gaining momentum. In 1982, Mathison penned the script for E.T., the Extraterrestrial, earning an Academy Award nomination and cementing her reputation as one of Hollywood's most gifted writers. Ford, meanwhile, had added Raiders of the Lost Ark to his resume and was now a household name worldwide. The two seemed like a perfect match, a leading man and a behind-the-scenes creative force. In 1983, they married, becoming one of Hollywood's most admired couples, though they fiercely guarded their privacy. Their family life was equally private. They had 2 children together. Malcolm, who would later become the frontman of the punk-influenced band The Dough Rollers, and Georgia, who followed her father into acting. But life at home wasn't without challenges. In her early 20s, Georgia was diagnosed with epilepsy, a revelation that drew Ford even closer to her. He became an outspoken advocate for epilepsy research, even auctioning off his iconic Han Solo jacket to raise funds. For a man who often avoided public causes, this was deeply personal. Despite their strong bond, Ford's relentless filming schedule and the pressures of 2 demanding careers began to take their toll. By 2000, the couple had separated, briefly reconciled, and then ultimately filed for divorce in 2004. With no prenuptial agreement, the settlement was substantial, reported at $85 million, but both remained committed co-parents. Tragically, in 2015, Melissa Mathison passed away from neuroendocrine cancer, leaving a legacy not just of great films, but of the family she and Ford built together. Her loss was a quiet but profound moment in Ford's life. And as he navigated his career and fatherhood alone again, love would find him in the most unexpected place. An award show that would spark a romance lasting more than 2 decades. In 2002, Harrison Ford was 60 years old, long past the point where most people expect to stumble into a new love story. Callista Flockhart was 38, fresh off the fame of Ally McBeal, and navigating life as a single mother after adopting her infant son Liam the year before. On paper, they couldn't have been more different. Yet fate and a clumsy accident brought them together at the 59th Golden Globe Awards. That night, Ford and Flockhart were introduced by friends, and within minutes, the conversation was flowing. Then it happened. Flockhart, wine glass in hand, accidentally spilled it. Most people would panic in front of a Hollywood icon, but she laughed it off. Ford, amused, kept the conversation going as if nothing had happened. What could have been an awkward moment instead became the perfect icebreaker. Over the next few months, they quietly began seeing each other, slipping into a rhythm far from the glare of constant paparazzi. When they made their first public appearance at the Venice Film Festival later that year, it was clear to anyone watching that something real was unfolding. The age gap, a full 22 years, became instant tabloid fodder, but the couple brushed it off. Flockhart later joked that she often forgot about it entirely, saying Ford looked cute in the mornings with what she called his little boy face. As their relationship deepened, Ford also bonded with Liam. He never set out to become a father figure again, but soon he was spending holidays, weekends, and quiet nights at home with the boy. Friends noticed how naturally he embraced the role, showing up for school events and family traditions. For a man who had spent decades in the public eye but kept his private life locked away, Ford seemed surprisingly open in this new chapter. What started as an unexpected meeting at an awards show had turned into a steady, grounded partnership. But the real turning point came in 2009, when Ford made a move that surprised even those closest to him. By 2009, Harrison Ford and Callista Flockhart had been together for 7 years, long enough for the tabloids to stop betting on when they'd break up, and long enough for friends to notice how deeply they'd settled into each other's lives. Ford, never known for grand public gestures, decided to change that. During a Valentine's Day getaway in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, with Liam and Callista by his side, he surprised her with a proposal. There was no staged red carpet moment, no magazine photo shoot, just a quiet, personal question that carried more weight than any blockbuster script. She said yes. A year later, they turned that engagement into a marriage. But in true Ford and Flockhart fashion, they did it on their own terms. On June 15, 2010, in the middle of Ford's Cowboys and Aliens shoot, they slipped away to the governor's mansion in Santa Fe, New Mexico. The ceremony was officiated by then-Governor Bill Richardson, with only a handful of people in the room. Richardson's wife, a close advisor, and Liam, now 9 years old. The director of Cowboys and Aliens, Jon Favreau, didn't even know it had happened until afterward. When he found out, he sent Ford a fondue set as a tongue-in-cheek wedding gift. Blending their family happened naturally. Ford legally adopted Liam, fully stepping into the role of father. He once admitted he hadn't planned on raising another child at that stage of his life, but called it one of the great joys he never saw coming. Holidays were now about pumpkin patches, home-cooked meals, and volunteering together at Los Angeles Mission's Thanksgiving event. Public appearances became rare, but when they did step onto a red carpet, it was clear they weren't there for the cameras. They were there for each other. Still, life had a way of testing even the strongest partnerships. And in 2015, a terrifying moment in the air would force both Ford and Flockhart to face the fragility of the life they had built. March 5, 2015, started like any other day for Harrison Ford until it didn't. The actor, an experienced pilot with thousands of hours in the cockpit, took off from Santa Monica Airport in his vintage World War II-era Ryan PT-22. Moments after takeoff, disaster struck. The engine failed. Ford managed to steer the plane toward a nearby golf course, avoiding homes and power lines, but the crash landing was brutal. He suffered a fractured pelvis, a broken ankle, and deep cuts to his head. News helicopters circled overhead as emergency crews pulled him from the wreckage. For Callista Flockhart, the phone call came fast and without warning. She rushed to the hospital where Ford was in surgery. Friends later said she barely left his side during his recovery, bringing Liam to visit and keeping the press at bay. For a couple known for their independence, this was a moment of raw vulnerability, and it showed the depth of their bond. Ford's passion for flying had been part of their relationship from the beginning. He'd taken Callista up in the air countless times, teaching her to love the feeling of flight. After the crash, some wondered if she'd ask him to quit for good. But 5 months later, she made her stance clear. He loves it, so I love it. I support him 100%. It wasn't blind faith, it was trust. In private, the incident changed things. Ford became more selective about the planes he flew, and the couple spent more time on the ground, enjoying the quiet life at their 800-acre ranch in Wyoming. But the near tragedy didn't shake them apart. If anything, it became one more chapter in a relationship defined by loyalty, patience, and an unspoken understanding that neither of them took for granted. By 2023, Harrison Ford and Callista Flockhart had been together for more than 2 decades, a feat in Hollywood that's almost as rare as finding a script Ford hasn't already turned into a hit. They'd weathered the frenzy of their early public romance, the quiet routines of family life, and the kind of near-death scare that can shift a person's priorities overnight. Yet, on the red carpet at the Cannes Film Festival for the premiere of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, they looked like two people still caught in the early stages of something new. Cameras caught Ford, now 80, gazing at Flockhart with a look that said more than any interview ever could: admiration, gratitude, and maybe even a little disbelief that this was still his life. The festival was a big moment for Ford. He received a Lifetime Achievement Award and a standing ovation that lasted several minutes. But while the world was clapping for his career, his eyes kept drifting toward the woman sitting just a few feet away. Later, at the Los Angeles premiere, he put it into words. My life has been enabled by my lovely wife, who has supported my passions and my dreams. You've given my life purpose and meaning. In a career built on scripted lines, this was one of the rare times Ford seemed to speak straight from the heart. Harrison Ford's love life has been as layered and unpredictable as the characters he's played. From the quiet stability of his first marriage to Mary Marquardt, to the whirlwind with screenwriter Melissa Matheson, to a secret affair with Carrie Fisher that stayed hidden for decades. Each chapter carried its own lessons, heartbreaks, and moments of joy. But it's his relationship with Callista Flockhart that has become the defining romance of his later years. A partnership built not on the flash of Hollywood, but on trust, humor, and an unshakable sense of loyalty. They've blended a family, survived a near-fatal plane crash, navigated a 22-year age gap under constant public scrutiny, and come out stronger for it. In an industry where love stories often fade as quickly as opening weekend box office numbers, Harrison Ford and Callista Flockhart have quietly proven that sometimes the greatest happily ever after is the one that happens far from the cameras. And maybe that's why, even after all these years, when Ford looks at her on the red carpet, you can still see that same spark from the night they met. Proof that for him, the real blockbuster is the life they've built together.